Hey, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I want to reiterate the title of this hearing is Benefits of Legacy Pollution Cleanup Programs under Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, which exactly none of our constituents have ever asked us to conduct oversight on because nobody cares, because what is on front and center on the minds of Americans right now are the unaffordable cost of energy. Mr. Chairman, what the appropriate thing to do for this committee is for this committee to exercise its oversight authority over the energy policies that have caused the energy crisis that we're experiencing today, where the administration is talking about releasing 1 million barrels of oil a day from the energy reserves, which correctly are established to address energy emergencies, but not those that are self-imposed as a result of flawed energy strategies. This committee has jurisdiction over energy production. What we should be doing is we should have the Secretary of Interior, we should have the Secretary of Energy, we should have other officials before us answering these questions. And Dr. Feldgus, I have a lot of respect for you, and I really enjoyed the opportunity to work with you for many years. But unfortunately, you've been offered as a sacrificial lamb today, and I think that's really unfortunate that you're being thrown out there in this setting rather than actually doing what we should be doing. I said this earlier this week. I'm going to say it again. Just imagine for half a second if this was going on during the Trump administration and what the majority in this Congress would be doing, who they would drag kicking and screaming before this committee. I just heard the chairman talk about beating up companies for making profits. I want to also remind you, Mr. Chairman, these are the same companies that have walked away from tens of billions of dollars in assets in Russia, entirely walking away from them because of their objection to what's happening in the ridiculous activities of Vladimir Putin. Dr. Feldgus, I'm sorry that you're here, but thanks for being here. Great to see you again. Dr. Feldgus, I really struggle with something. I've heard this narrative coming out of the administration about the 9,000 APDs, the permits, and how this demonstrates that the administration is doing everything they can to increase domestic production. The reality is, number one, the permits that have been issued aren't under this administration, they're primarily under the previous administration. Number two, you have more active permits right now than we've ever had before. Number three, the truth is that this administration is sitting on 4,500 APDs right now and doing absolutely nothing to advance those. And as my friend Mr. Stauber just talked about, this is the only administration that has not advanced a lease sale. And of course, what that means to the average American is not opened up or offered any additional lands or waters in the United States for energy production. Could you please respond to this and tell me how in the world this makes any sense?
Well, I'll just say that we have approved over 4,000 APDs since January 20th of 2021. And the number of APDs pending right now is actually lower at the end of fiscal year 2021 than it was at the end of fiscal year 2020. So we are
Say that last part again.
The number of permits pending at the end of fiscal year 2021 is lower than the number that were pending at the end of fiscal year 2020.
But wouldn't that be because the previous administration had gone through and approved all of the permits early on, and we had a significant increase in energy production?
I can't speak to why the numbers are, but it's about 40. It's 44.99 APDs pending at the end of fiscal
On
year
top of it,
21.
Mr. Felgus, you got this administration that's out there offering this social cost of carbon, shutting down projects or preventing them from even being able to get into the regulatory process. Because as you know, getting an APD doesn't mean that you can actually produce energy. That's a step in the process, but there's much more beyond that, correct?
Sure. Our role is to process the permits.
No, not my question. Not my question. If you get an APD, can you start drilling the next day?
That depends on, as far as I know, it depends on the individual situation. But I will say that the
okay. Let me hold on. So let me ask it another way. Is there any scenario where if an APD is given, you can go drill the next day? Any scenario?
I'm sorry, I can't answer that.
I can answer it. No, it is simply one step in the process. You have made the NEPA process and others absolutely impossible to proceed through at this point. And it was intentional by this administration. Mr. Felgus, last question for you, Dr. Felgus. 8% of Americans, 8% support asking foreign countries to produce energy to address our domestic needs. Why is it the administration supports 8% of Americans rather than 92%?
Well, I'll just say that federal oil production on lands and waters in 2021 set an all-time record. So production on federal lands is up, and while overall domestic production is a little bit below where it was in 2019, it is rising, and the Energy Information Administration projects will hit record domestic production in 2023. So the administration supports, increased domestic energy production,
Which, Mr.
all forms.
Which, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate. I'm going to submit information for the record that clarifies or corrects the statement of Dr. Feldgus in regard to domestic energy production, and make note that this administration is the first administration in history to block or prevent lease sales to address our domestic energy needs, and to triple nearly the importation of Russian crude oil and being dependent upon them. Yield back.